Of course, yeah, it started as a side hustle, but we both were like, okay, let's set a goal for revenue this year. Neither one of us came from anything with like starting our own business, nothing. This is all on our own. We're like, okay, goal is $50,000. So then we'll profit maybe 20. We can pay off $20,000 of debt. After April, we had hit $500,000 in revenue 4 months in. And so then we looked at it. We're like, okay, my salary is $35,000 selling insurance. I think I'm going to leave my job now, and just do this. So we told our parents, hey, Tori's leaving, corporate America. We're going to focus on this. They're like, okay, as long as you don't quit your job. To my husband, his parents told him that. He's like, don't leave your job. 3 months later, come July, we hit $1 million of revenue. He's like, I think I'm going to quit my job too. And so everyone thought we were crazy. We went on to do $4 million the first year.
Today's guest turned a $300 Facebook side hustle into one of America's fastest growing online fashion brands. Tori Gerbig, founder and CEO of Pink Lily. Tori launched Pink Lily from her living room while balancing a full-time job and raising a newborn. What started as selling clothes online quickly became a multi-million-dollar business. Today, Pink Lily employs hundreds, ships nationwide, and empowers women to feel confident in every outfit. Under Tori's leadership, the company has grown into a household name, recognized for its authenticity, community, and heart-driven entrepreneurship. She's also become a sought-after voice on leadership, work-life balance, and what it really takes to build something from scratch. Tori, welcome to the Matthews Mentality Podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
And a guest who only had to drive down the street. Always love a local Nashvilleian. But no, you really did build Pink Lily from scratch. And just jumping into it, talk to us, what prompted you to start Pink Lily? And then we'll dive into what it's like to build a company from scratch.
What prompted me and then what kept me going is different. So what prompted me originally was having over $300,000 of debt and having a newborn and making $35,000 salary at the time. So that's what prompted me to go into more the entrepreneur route. But then once I started and really started sharing to this community clothing, accessories that I loved and seeing them wear it and want to be a part of it, that's what kept me going. I was like, wow, this could be really something that I absolutely love.
Well, hold on. Okay, let me stop you there. You said something, and at first I agreed, and then I was like, wait a minute. You said what prompted you was you were $300,000 in debt and were having a kid or just had a kid. I actually feel like for most people that actually stop them from something.
Yeah, I had no extra money to invest in anything.
But you did it. Have you had time, or have you ever spent time reflecting, how come perhaps you took that leap or made that choice? While I feel like men or women, and we'll get into the dynamics of that, most people be like, hey, I'd love to do that, but there's just too much risk because I have this debt and I have this family.
Yeah, I think for me, I knew that I was out of control of an increase of salary at the time. Of course, it was 2011 and 12 when I started working and graduated college. So not great for the workforce. I couldn't get my foot in the door of a job I really wanted. So I couldn't just increase my salary. I knew that I had to take means into my own hands and figure it out. So yes, we didn't have money to invest, but I also knew that if I didn't do something else, that I would be limited working for somebody else for the rest of my life, making well below what I wanted to make.
And was that the or one of the motivations for saying, I'm just going to go, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. The biggest motivation. I wanted to be more in control of my finances and more in control of the life that I created and lived.
And maybe a bad boss was
No, actually. So I've had several bosses over the years. I started working at 16. Most of them were males. So I do feel like that had a little bit of, okay, well, I didn't have a female boss that I looked up to and respected, and I wanted to pave the way for more women. And, I don't really know all of the answers at the time. I just knew that I really wanted to make something of myself and be a female mom doing it.
Well, yeah, those male bosses suck. Yeah, for sure. I feel that. No, but that is a driver. I'll call it, if you have a better term, female empowerment. Were you always like that at a young age? You in addition to wanting to be successful, you said, hey, I would like to pave the way and make it easier for women to come behind me?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I always had a lot of ambition, a lot of drive. I was, my 8th grade class president, and I really was always involved and wanted to do more than just show up. I wanted to like lead. And so I felt like, especially during high school and college, I was involved in as much as I could and took on those leadership roles. But then whenever I got to the workforce, I felt like I was just back down at the very bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, a little social justice warrior. Would if I sat here with your mom, would I or your dad, would I say like, hey, did you always know she was going to do something? Were you always like entrepreneurial and go getter and I'm going to take over the world, or was that something that kind of turned on later on in life?
I think my mom would tell you that I was a perfectionist. I worked really hard. Very great grades, very leadership roles. I think she would have said that, yes, she expected me to do well in life, but not necessarily what it's turned into.
Mm.
My dad probably wouldn't be able to tell you much because he was always just working, and it was a family of 5, 4 girls and a boy, so his boy
Mm.
was his pride and joy.
Oh, God bless your father, though. So I touched on Pink Lily in the introduction, but let's not assume every audience member knows. Can you just
Yeah.
give us like a couple bullet points on Pink Lily, and then I have a question to follow up that.
For sure. So Pink Lily is an online women's clothing boutique, currently 100% online. And we really outfit women from head to toe. Our demographic ranges from 20 to 45, 50-year-old women. And it's really more not necessarily about, it is about fashion, but more about helping women feel confident and beautiful and enjoying the things in life, holidays, experiences, and outfitting them without breaking the bank. So that was the number one thing when I started, was ensuring that the quality and the price really were something that the customers would thrive and love.
So like a kind of that perfect meeting in the middle of like, because historically, if I had to understand fashion, high quality was very high price.
Yes, correct.
Low price meant low quality, and
Yep.
you look to kind of have those two worlds meet.
Absolutely. So I, of course, coming from a lower middle class family, I only had hand-me-downs growing up. I was the 4th girl. Of course, they just kept all the other kids' clothes, and again, that's what I wore. So I didn't get to go shopping. I didn't get to go buy things because my mom was a school teacher. She didn't have money for it. So whenever I started buying my own clothes in college, I bought everything myself. Like, wait, I really want to look great, but I can't spend more than $30 or $40.
Mm.
At the time, that was very hard to do. In the 2010, 2011, no online stores really existed, and the local stores were either very high end or very low end quality wise too.
Have you thought about some brick and mortar, a little 12 South, little pop-up store?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the spot at 12 South. That's impossible to get,
Oh,
but
no.
yes, I really would love to. We've done several pop-ups. We've done the CMA Fest last year. Lots of warehouse sales back in Kentucky that were great. Huge turnout. So we want to get into brick and mortar. It's just making sure the location and timing is right.
And so I asked you a question. It said, hey, or I said, hey, can you just share with the audience Pink Lily above and beyond what I did in the intro? And I said there was a follow-up question, and this is, it kind of leads into this question. Like, when did you realize, it sounds like you started it, and again, don't let me put words in your mouth, as a side hustle, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
When did you realize it was bigger than a side hustle? There's something here.
It didn't take long. So my husband, he's the finance guy. Finance degree. He was getting his master's at the time. We both worked.
Is he 6'5"?
Do it. He's not 6'5", no.
Come on, you know the song?
Yeah.
6'5", finance guy? Oh, dude, come on. Like
all I know is my 12-year-old son wants to be a finance bro because of him. But anyway, yeah.
Trust fund, 6'5". Was that what it was?
He was getting his master's
How do I know
degree,
that?
driving back and forth down here to Nashville for his job. And of course, yeah, it started as a side hustle, but we both were like, okay, let's set a goal for revenue this year. Neither one of us came from anything with like starting our own business, nothing. This is all on our own. We're like, okay, goal is $50,000. So then we'll profit maybe 20. We can pay off $20,000 of debt.
Damn, a 40% margin is
It's
pretty good.
Then. It was only us. So like, of course, no overhead at our house.
I need to get in the clothes business.
That was the good old days. We ended up, after April, we had hit $500,000 in revenue 4 months in. And so then we looked at it. We're like, okay, my salary is $35,000 selling insurance. I think I'm going to leave my job now, and just do this. Has more potential. So we told our parents, hey, Tori's leaving, corporate America. We're going to focus on this. They're like, okay, as long as you don't quit your job. To my husband, his parents told him that. He's like, don't leave your job. 3 months later, come July, we hit $1 million of revenue. He's like, I think I'm going to quit my job too. And so everyone thought we were crazy. They're like, you need benefits. You need the security. This is just a side hustle. We went on to do 4 million the first year.
And so the question being, I think you answered it, is it started as a side hustle and very, very quickly it became the hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we did from our house even up until after our $1 million of revenue. Then we were like, let's actually get an office or a space to fulfill orders.
Give me a habit of yours that really started in the side hustle era, like that first year that you've never let go of, even no matter how big the company has become. What's one thing, like a hustle, like something that you did when it was small that you still do to this day?
I mean, I've always been determined, but I would say the habit is ensuring that every single day things don't get left undone, whether it's making sure my inbox is cleared out or making sure I pay the invoices or answer the customer's questions. That's something that's been the number one thing that was always important to me. I don't want to leave anybody hanging or anything hanging. So as the years have gone, we've ensured we have the customer service team, we have the social team. They have to respond to everything like in a timely manner. That's my expectation, is to ensure that there's not things left that have to carry over to the next day. We don't let people just hang.
That's good. Yeah, it hits when those criticisms come in.
Yeah.
Especially as a founder.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of the darkest days, for sure.
But and some of its nature is like when things work well for a customer or client, whether you're, in merge or service, like it's an expectation. There's a ratio. It's like 10-to-1 of complaints versus,
Absolutely.
positive comments.
And I think that's also goes back to me. I've always worked in service, in high school and college. I worked in a restaurant. I was a server. I was a hostess. I was the breadstick girl who handed out breadsticks, so I've always worked in service. And then of course, selling insurance, that's all service. So that's what my expertise was with, my marketing degree. So I feel like that wanting to build a brand, sell a product, but also ensuring that customer is taken care of at the same time.
You said earlier, I think you said your mom would describe maybe as a perfectionist, and it's sometimes being a perfectionist is difficult as an entrepreneur because you can't be perfect.
Absolutely.
And perfectionists, when things don't go the way you want or mistakes made, it's really hard for perfectionists, has been my experience. But I'm sure you made a mistake. So I want to ask the question, what was one of the most embarrassing or hilarious mistakes you ever made early on that actually probably over time turned into a great lesson?
Oh, I've made so many mistakes, for sure.
Tell us, humble yourself.
I feel like definitely with employees, especially my perfectionism, expecting them to perform perfect is the biggest issue, of course, in the first 5-6 years of being a founder, a new business, and then you have these high standards that not everyone else cares about. So I think that that's the biggest thing is, some of my biggest mistakes in those early years is just not stepping back and saying, okay, I want to teach, train, and lead, but just have these high expectations that weren't always attainable. Some people rose to the occasion and some people did not.
Yeah, God makes everybody different.
Yeah.
And if you could argue if they cared as much as you did, they might be a founder too, but everybody's built different, and as long as they're happy and then to a degree do the role. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
One of the things I learned, somebody told me in the very early years, they're like, no one else is going to care about your business as much as you. And that had to stick. And I was like, okay, I cannot expect them to care about this the way that I do. So I have to lower my standards a little bit. They're not the founder too.
Yeah. Didn't I, Zach? Yeah, I did like 5, was it 5 things, and I said, nobody will ever care as much as you do. And then there was like sub-talk within there is like, stop getting mad when they don't. Like,
absolutely. I think that was the biggest learning is like, I cannot be upset when they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. We touched on this, but I want to dive deeper, kind of double click into the leaving a stable job. Obviously it wasn't highly compensated, $2,000, inflation adjusted, $2,500 today. But no, you're probably not saving a lot at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, you did overcome the fear.
Yes.
That a lot of people, I don't think it's probably unique that people have a business idea like you did, but at least from my vantage points, what amongst many things that are unique is you didn't let that fear keep you or prevent you from making that leap. Like, how did you overcome that?
I will say I do feel like I have overcome fear pretty well in my life. I've been pretty confident, but it was still scary. Like, walking away from a job and the expectations that my parents had for me and other people, it's still hard and scary. But I think that at the end of the day, my faith kept me going. I knew that everything happens for a reason, and if it was going to work out, it was going to work out because it was supposed to. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's still a life lesson to be learned, and I could job honestly. So I think at the end of the day, I was just like, what is there to lose?
I assume early on when the company, even in the first year, probably made more money than you thought. A lot of that you reinvested the
Oh
profits
yeah,
back in the business.
reinvested, and of course, we went from a team of 2 to a team of 50 within the first 2 years. So of course, reinvesting back in product to scale, but also teams as well.
So late nights, right? The
Absolutely.
proverbial early mornings, late nights, hustling. I mean, if you started this business thinking you're going to do 50,000 of revenue, how much did you do your first 12 months?
4 million.
4 million. I assume you basically had to do every job.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like printing the order labels, packaging the orders from our dining room table, all of it.
I was going to say, give us a funny story too, but also maybe a story that really tested you that first year where you just like, okay, certainly the revenue's phenomenal, but I did not know I was signing up for this.
Yeah. So first year, I think the biggest thing is whenever I left my job, thinking I could do that and also take care of my 1-year-old, almost 1-year-old son at the same
Yeah, we're going to
time.
get there. We're going to get there.
Thinking I could be a stay-at-home mom doing this, absolutely not. So my son's walking around in the dining room where we had all the clothing. He's learning how to walk, and he pulls a clothing rack and it starts tumbling
Yep.
over on
Yeah.
him. Then I'm like, okay, this is actually a safety concern
Yeah.
now. So I think that was, well, it was funny to look back on. It was actually kind of scary, but we were like, we have to get a lease. We have to get out of this house. So I think the biggest thing that I really thought I could do was actually take care of him and take care of this business. So a mistake I made, which is not a mistake, a blessing and a curse, hiring family to come help. Of course, package orders,
Yeah.
and AKA my mom. I love her and I still do employ her, but of course they're going to give you their own opinion and
Yeah.
all the things. So I think that in the beginning, working those long days with family, very close quarters in your house, dining room table, packaging orders with your 1-year-old, it was rough.
Yeah, man.
But those are still the good old days. And we love to look back on, I can't believe that's where we were and now where we are.
Yeah, dude. Matthew's family, no way I'm working with those guys. Great people, love them to death. No.
I actually did fire my mom at one point, and then she went to HR and rehired herself. She knocked on the door.
She sued you for discrimination.
And she was like, I would like to be hired, and here is my hourly rate. And they hired her back.
You fired your mom.
Yes.
Well, hold on. Like, how does that meeting go?
It wasn't, and it sounds terrible.
No, it sounds awesome. Because it sounds like you guys are good.
She wouldn't stop. My mom is such a great lady, loves to get to know all the employees, loves to get to know everybody, but she also likes to get into their business. So, of course, when there's drama amongst all these young women, she's like, well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said that.
Does she drop a bless? Oh, bless her heart. But this is what she said.
No, she's like, well, I think she should just do this. And I'm like, Kathy, you have to stop getting so intermingled in these girls' lives. Well, then, of course, people would come and go and leave. Of course, they're 20-year-olds, so they're not there forever. But then she would get upset. She's like, well, so-and-so made that person leave. And I'm like, you got to stop. You're causing drama and you're 65 years old.
When you fired her, did you at least give her a little severance?
I still paid her. That was what it was. I told her to stop coming in, but she would still get a paycheck from me personally. And she didn't like that. She still wanted to be a part of Pink Lily and was like, I'm coming back and working in the office every single day.
That's funny. Sounds like blackmail. Before we get into being, I'm going to coin this term, Allison, get with legal. We could trademark this, founder mom. Because, in prepping for this meeting, you say, okay, what's it? Because I really want to dive in being like a working mom, But you're not just a working mom, you're a founder mom, which I think as a founder, I'm not a founder mom. Founder dad, different. Nobody cares about the dad. So I think being a founder mom is different than being a working mom. Neither is better or worse. It's different. And I don't think there's been enough conversation about being a founder mom. I'm going to get there. Before we do that, what is the worst thing that happened to you professionally as a founder in that first year? What was just the absolute worst thing that happened that really, really hit you hard, and it was outside of firing your mom? No, truly was just a challenge. You're like, I don't know if I can figure this out or if I can get over this.
I mean, definitely not the first year, but within the first few years, having a second child and running the business. And then, of course, the expectation of it's new to everybody. It was new to my husband and myself as well. But his expectation is, okay, we have to take care of our children. But at the end of the day, somebody also has to run the business too. So it was a lot, especially stress in the marriage because of at the we have children to feed. We have to wake up all night and feed the kids, but I have to be in the work at 8 a.m. And there's this expectation of like, how do you do it both?
Yeah.
Like, how do you take care of your kids, get them to school and show up and not feel stressed about it all? So I think that the biggest in my first few years was just the amount of stress going through everything.
And
Like
did that wear on, I mean, physically, mentally?
everybody, yes, wear on
You
me,
suffer
wear on
from
my
that.
kids, wear on my husband, anxiety. I had a
It does wear on
lot.
it does wear on the husband for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sure. um, so my anxiety got really high because I felt the need to grow the business. It was still growing at a crazy fast
Mm.
rate. But also lead the team, teach everybody everything because it's brand new. But then I have another newborn at home, 2 under 2 at one point, and doing it all at the same time.
Where do you think it showed up? When you say anxiety and stress, where do you think it showed up? If I may ask you kind of a personal question, where do you think it showed up in the worst way? Where you're looking back, you're like, man, that really it negatively impacted your life.
I threw a shoe at my husband's head while we were
Yeah.
at work one day. I was like, I'm going, I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds terrible. And it was not with intentions to hit him, just to like, hey, I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
I need a little help. Like my
Yeah.
anxiety's high. I didn't
Man,
sleep. It was
I
a
feel like
lot.
there's worse. At least you didn't throw a knife, right?
That's true. And it was just it was like a flat shoe, not a heel.
Ah, well, you know what? I talked to your husband before that. He still carries a lot
We
of
shared
resentment.
an office too. It was a terrible idea back then.
Yeah.
Sharing the office, and even now, which he has stepped away from the company for that reason, for us to like
Yeah.
not only live and breathe running a company together, but I think that was really what that tested me, was just those
Mm.
mental days of the anxiety and the stress and feeling like I was dropping the ball somewhere, whether it was with my marriage or my kids or my job.
There's not enough time in a day to manage it all, it feels
No.
like. And so you kind of, my experience is there's a pendulum, right? And
Yeah.
the work for a while, you're kind of over investing there, and then the personal life can suffer. And then you're like, I got to get back over there. And, you spend a lot of time there, and then maybe the business suffers. I swear, and we all need about 4 more hours in the day.
I always say I need a second me. I need to clone
Yeah.
myself. I need another me.
Well, some of that is hiring domestic help, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, sharing an office and a company with your spouse, that would be difficult. My wife has a hard enough time sharing a room with me because like I'm messy. She's very clean. I'm messy. Like
I feel like a lot of men are messy.
I call it efficient. Okay. I stack the clothes up throughout the week, and then like Saturday morning, wake up, I put them all away. She doesn't like that,
Just
but
put them away when they get clean. But,
there's economies of scale there, I think. So, all right, founder mom, what is it like to be a founder mom?
I, up until just very recently, felt very like no one really understood. Working moms, maybe mostly, but not still running the company. At the end of the day,
You're trying to be nice right now. Like,
I think any mom out there is a superhero. Doesn't matter if they work or don't work. I think that having a child and raising a child or children is the hardest thing in the world.
it is.
But being a working mom and actually leaving for 8 hours a day,
Mhm.
9 hours a day, 10 hours, and then coming home and still raising your kid and taking care of your household is very difficult. And then you throw in actually leading a business and running the business. It's just there's not enough hours in the day.
Mhm.
So even now, there's plenty of times I put my kids to bed and I still have to go check those emails, and I have to get into a clean slate by bedtime. But I think up until just recently, I was like, I feel like I'm the only person who understands. But then I'm like, you know what? You're right. I am a founder mom, and that is very few people out there. So it is true that most people don't understand how hard it
We're gonna start a podcast called Founder Moms.
is.
I'm gonna be on this just to offer a different perspective. Okay, I don't mind sitting shotgun. You're the host. Allison, make it happen. All right, dude. Big funnel there. All right. How many kids you got?
I have 3 kids.
That's a
So
lot.
my son is 12. I started the business when he was 1. I had to do math real quick. Yes. So he is 12. My daughter's 10. And then my youngest is 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a parent judger, So You ever meet, okay, maybe it's a founder and they're like, dude, Kyle, I know, man, it's hard being a founder. You're like, it is, right? And being a parent. Like, let's say I'm talking to a dude, like being a dad and a founder, you're like, for real? Like, and they're like, how many kids you got? And they're like, I got one. And you're like, you got one kid? How old are they? 14 or 16? They drive them. You're like, dude, you aren't on my level.
Yeah.
I got 4 kids. You got 3 kids. You ever find yourself judging people who are like, they try and put themselves in your shoes? Like, oh, dude, I know what it's like. I got a kid too. You're like,
Yeah.
no, I got 3.
Yeah, no, I do. I don't judge them, but
Oh yeah, you do.
It's hard to
see.
It's hard to have a conversation with them because I'm like, I don't think you get it, how hard it really is, especially with the different ages and how involved in sports and activities my kids are. I'm like, we literally are, I'm an Uber after 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm driving them everywhere. And that's what it is. So it is very hard, very difficult. It's a little easier now that my oldest is 12 and my daughter is 10. So it's like, okay, well, they can help watch the 5-year-old, which in the, 5 years ago during COVID, they couldn't, during the pandemic when we were all at home, they were too young. So I feel like we've gotten over some of the baby toddler stage, which is great.
That's tough.
But now it's just to drive them around all the time.
Uber driving. Yeah, I got 4 kids, all in school, all in sports. None of them drive.
Yeah.
My wife and I are just shuttling humans, and then inevitably they got a buddy. I don't get good reviews. I don't get tips.
I feel like that's a business that needs to be started.
Yeah,
probably a big liability, but I think it should be started.
I feel like they did. It's called Uber.
But not for kids. You can't just put a 12-year-old in the car.
You can. I do it. I've done it. I've done it like 100 times. I'm just joking. I've never done it. For what it's worth, I've suggested to my wife, like, let's just have Uber. And she looks at me like, are you insane?
Yeah.
And I said, yes.
Yes, you are.
Like, listen, it's, what's the worst that could happen?
You never see your child again.
No, come on. See, that's a problem. That's a problem with social media now. We live in the safest, in the US, the safest era ever in the history of like human civilization by data and statistics. But you would never know it because you get on these social media apps and those algos, like they prey on mothers' anxieties.
For sure.
Like one kid gets a brain-eating amoeba from swimming in a lake somewhere once every 10 years, and that article is just going to keep showing up and it's going to hit you, it's going to click, and then you stop letting your kids swim in lakes, and that's how it happens.
I know. I had to limit the oysters that we ate a few months ago because I was like, I just saw somebody die from eating an oyster.
Yeah.
And my kids were like, you're crazy, Mom. I'm like,
yeah, see, the social media platforms. But regardless of being a founder, in your opinion, what do you think is the hardest job of being a working parent? And it may just be unique to being a working mom, but like a working parent, what's the hardest part of that based on your experience?
I think the hardest part is how we, as working moms and working moms, don't give ourselves enough grace. We don't give ourselves enough like pats on the back, cheering us on. Like we're trying not to drop the ball between your children and your job and your career and even some sort of social life or, your marriage. I feel like we always stress so much without just saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually a badass. I'm doing this and I'm doing it pretty well. I think I've struggled with that over the years. I'm like, I feel like I've dropped the ball too much on my kids or on my job or, do I have, relationships with my friends anymore? But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm actually showing up for everybody as much as I can and doing a great job. So I think that we just don't give ourselves enough grace and pats on the back.
Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
In asking that question, I was like, well, what would my answer be is I feel like I'm failing at everything.
Yeah. I
feel like I'm sucking at everything, because I'm as a founder or a working parent, I can't be with my kids enough. I suck I'm not doing a good job as a dad. I can't be with my wife enough. I'm not doing a good enough job as a husband. And then you're spending time with them and you're like, and I think that's similar to what you just communicated.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So like you can't do it all 100%. There's no way. Yeah. So like just be glad that you like get to wake up and you have your health and you have the ability to go into your job and to be a mom. There's so many women out there that can't be a mom or struggling to find a job. So just changing your perspective a little bit on it.
And again, just giving you my perspective, but this is really a question. My wife worked until we had her second. So, I got to see that. And, just from being in this chair, I do feel like women are harder on themselves than men are. Why do you think that is?
I think women are harder on themselves because they also compare themselves. I think that I don't see it often, with most of the men or males I'm around, but women, especially social media, you said that, they'll get on there and say, oh, like all these moms are making these cute little things for Halloween or Christmas for their kids, but I didn't do that. Like I should have done that. And it becomes a cycle of like they're hard on themselves because they're not doing what other people are doing, what they think that they should be doing, instead of just thinking, okay, I'm doing the best I can and I don't have to compare myself to every person on social media. I'm living the life that I can do the best of my ability and stop comparing to others. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
part of it.
I did see one of those like perfect mom videos. Like,
Yeah.
let me tell you what I baked with my kids for Halloween. And you're like, it took that chick 1,000 takes to make that. She probably spent, 10,000 hours. She probably
Yep.
sucks as a mom,
And the truth is like I know the influencer world, most of it's not real. It's like they're
Yeah,
showing
all of
this.
it's not real. It's
I
literally fake.
over the last few years especially, like I don't show up perfect on my platforms. I don't want women to think I am perfect because I'm not. There are plenty of days where I'm just barely getting by. And I think if I'm always showing up perfect, they'll compare and say, "Well, she has 3 kids and this mega business and she always is perfect." And that's not the reality of
This
it.
is true, audience. I had hair and makeup done. I offered it to her. She said no. So now,
I can do my own.
there you go. What's as a business scale? I'm going to get back a little more on the professional side. What's as it was scaling and it really became its thing. What's
Mhm.
one decision or direction that you made as the CEO that really not just allowed your business to continue to grow, but either further accelerated the growth?
I think the biggest thing that is always listening to what the customers want and ask and what they really are looking for. There are plenty of things that over the years I'm like, well, I don't know if I personally would wear that or love that, but our customers eat it up and love it. So it's like really putting the customer first and then also the employees. I think both of those two, like, and I know that Chick-fil-A, we all go through Chick-fil-A and we're like, wow, they have this figured out with customers. I told my employees years ago, we are the Chick-fil-A of online boutiques. Like
Mm.
that's what my expectation is. Like I want our customers to be the forefront of what we do with everything we do.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A. Yes, just was talking to someone who's like, look, they're in the chicken business. A lot of chicken places,
Yeah,
and it's the customer experience.
absolutely.
You
That's all
know,
it is.
friendly
That's the
people,
difference. The
friendly
food's great
people.
too, yes, but there's great chicken everywhere.
Food's great, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's chicken. It's consistent.
Yeah,
Like
that is true.
obviously, you go to any Chick-fil-A, you're going to get the same thing. I think that's what probably to some degree made a McDonald's successful. But the customer service is phenomenal. They were really the first, like, consistently to do the double drive-throughs. So the wait times, again, customer experience, like the
Yep.
wait times, as much as you can at Chick-fil-A, like it's very
Yeah.
efficient, and they don't do a lot, and so that allows them to be very efficient in the making of the food.
Yeah.
Like there aren't 100 things on the menu. There's like 10. I think there's a lesson in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree on that one. I think that and that years ago when we had a smaller team, 20, 30 of us, like even back then when we were having 1,000, 2,000 orders a day, it was my goal. We're shipping these out clean every day. Like this customer needs to get it within 2 or 3 days. Like the expectation should be there of like serving that customer. So like that was always the mindset that I had to teach the employees to make sure that you're not just leaving things hanging and the customer unsatisfied.
What was the most pissed, most angry you've ever been as a boss lady?
I feel like
I'll give you more context. 'Cause I'm
okay.
thinking about this Chick-fil-A, and I'm thinking about what makes them successful as a company. They've done a great job in executing this culture, this service, this consistency across however many thousands of stores they have.
Yeah.
But as a founder, as an operating CEO, like just because you have an idea, you have a new plan, and you lay it out to your people, they don't always execute. So what's the most pissed off, the most angry, the most frustrated you've ever been in terms of like, hey, I wanted this to get done and it didn't get done? When was the other time you threw a shoe at someone's head?
There's never been another time that I've thrown a shoe at somebody's head. But yes, I feel like as I hired team members and built out staff and leadership and directors, of course the vision can be translated differently over time. And I think that there have been situations where it's been so crazy busy, like the growth got too fast too quickly, like in the late, teens, 20 teens. There were intentional mistakes by some, creatives and some employees that were like, they just didn't genuinely care. It
Mm,
was too much workload. And I think that's what really angered me. There were times where, okay, where I have expectations on how this should come out, and then they just didn't do it. So I think that
mm.
that was, it's not like a one time, but there were several situations. That also goes back to my perfectionism and ensuring that I don't have these too high of standards. But at the end of the day, there are going to be employees that don't always care at all. And so like that's the hard part, is like ensuring that what gets put out there aligns with your vision. And if it doesn't, then that's where I get frustrated.
We got a lot of aspiring founders who listen, men and women. How'd you deal with that? Is it just you walk in, you're like, hey, you're fired, or like how do you you change the people, change the people? Like
Yeah.
how did you
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been
address
those
it?
situations for sure where, I mean, even recently, there have been those situations that I'm like, okay, this is not what the foundation of Pink Lily was. This is not who we are, and we've got to fix it and get back to the core. So if there has been those situations where we had to let people go who were just not the right fit and didn't really understand the vision, the brand, which is always unfortunate. But I would rather be truthful, transparent, and honest with the people who are just not doing the things that we need to do as a brand, and find the right person versus hanging on to the wrong person to go the wrong path.
One of the things I've touched on, I talk about a lot more recently because I recognize this about myself. There's a concept, ruinous empathy, in business. There's a great book, Radical Candor, I think it is. And so touching on conflict, right, is somebody doesn't do something right, and inevitably you got to go and tell them like, you made this mistake. Here's the problems or issues it caused, and you need to get better. And I'm paraphrasing, or you're going to lose your job, and that's a very uncomfortable
Yeah.
conversation. Again, I'll take it kind of to the male female dynamic. It was hard for me,
Mhm.
and I feel like, and push back if I'm wrong, I feel like sometimes with females that conflict could be even harder.
Yeah.
Like just watching how my daughter deals with her friends in
Yeah.
conflict versus my son and the boys, like it's totally different. Is that something that you struggle with early, or is that a skill you had to develop of like,
Yeah.
being candid in knowing that it might hurt their feelings? Because anytime you receive criticism, it hurts no matter what, even whether it's a coach or a critic. Or is that just something that came naturally to you?
No, it did not come naturally. I have avoided conflict for most of my life. Up until probably the first 4 or 5 years of business, my husband did handle all the HR, so I kind of let him. But there was still, at the end of the day, I would complain and I would be like, "Oh, so and so's not doing the right job." He's like, "Well, then speak to her, talk to her." So
Mm,
it was a learned skill. It was not something that came natural in any way. I don't like to tell anybody that they're not doing a great job. But now, in the last few years, I have feel like I, really worked on the candor piece of it and really worked on being direct, but in a positive way, not necessarily like, "Oh, you suck. You just really suck." Like making it where they can learn, hopefully, and change. And if it doesn't, then just being honest and transparent to them. So it actually does not bother me in any way now to have those conversations where 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my anxiety would be so high. I would stress about
yeah,
it going into the office,
I
like, I don't want to do this today. I can do it now. And
I empathize with you.
yeah,
Um, I say, what's the difference? I tell my kids this sometimes. They're like, what's the difference between a critic and a coach? I said, well, not the criticism part, because coaches by definition are criticizing you. Hey,
right.
you football wise, you did that wrong, boss wise, like that you did not, you know, execute this assignment correctly. But a coach then says, but here's how I'm going to try and help you be
Right.
better. While a critic just leaves it at the criticism. You suck, walk away.
Yeah.
Um, and it's difficult. And the ruinous empathy is I think the reason it's hard for you is because you're empathetic, and you know that
Absolutely.
criticism it hurts because it will hurt you. It hurts me. Anytime someone says, "Hey, you're not doing a good job," it stings. It's people differently, but I think to some degree, everybody it hurts. And being empathetic, you're like, "Gosh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like, I don't want to make them feel bad about themselves." The ruinous part is like, but in the pursuit of protecting their feelings from pain, which is empathy, you're actually setting themselves up for ruin because they're never going to get better.
Right.
And they're never going to really, first of all, know what they're doing wrong,
Yeah.
or actually be provided the tools. I've really struggled with that over the years. It
And I think
sounds like,
that's honestly why in the last few years I've gotten so much better at it, because if I have those conversations and try to coach and they still don't succeed, I know it was still for the better for their long time, their career path, for them
mm,
to be, told and to work on those things together versus just never telling them. And then letting it frustrate me and then letting it, eat at me, and then them not knowing what is going on. So I feel like being honest and transparent is the biggest thing in the last 3 or 4 years I've tried to do with my employees.
And this question, I didn't have it written down, but it kind of piggybacks on this topic. Some people, you're gonna give them the coaching, right? You're gonna give them the criticism and the coaching, and they're just not gonna
Yep.
respond, and they're not gonna agree, and they're not gonna get better, and eventually they're probably not gonna work with you. My experience, tell me if you're similar, is like they're gonna leave and they're gonna be resentful and they're gonna be angry. How have you dealt with accepting that some people are just not gonna like you, gonna be mad at you, and just like, sometimes that can be difficult, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel, especially with having, social platforms as well. I feel like I've lived through the nightmares of people going online and talking about me like, oh,
Mm,
I worked for her and she had too high expectations. I've lived through it. I understand that it really did bother me for a few years.
sure.
But then what other people say about me, what I've really like focused in on and what I try to tell my children as well is it's not my problem. It really does it used to affect me so much more. It does help me with the way I try to communicate and how I do like present myself to people just because I don't want them to say, well, she was just B word, everywhere. But I want to make sure that it doesn't affect me at the end of the day. I am doing the best I can as a leader, as
Mm.
a, founder. I'm doing the best I can. And not everyone's going to agree or like me. And I get that. And I don't let it affect me anymore.
Yeah, I don't like the B word.
I think
Yeah.
there were plenty of years where I'm like, again, anxiety high, growth high, having 3 kids, also a crazy pandemic, all these things. I wasn't as self aware as I am now. Okay, well, yeah, you probably were hard on people. You probably were taking a little, you probably were an asshole. But now
See?
I'm way more self aware thanks to partly my husband. But, I have focused in on self awareness and making sure that, it's also anxiety, that really contributed too. So now having a little bit lesser, finding ways to help my anxiety, being more self-aware, I feel like I can be transparent and help coach without being, the B word.
Or an asshole. You mentioned pandemic.
Yes.
While you're an online company, so just jumping to the end, it probably was the best thing that happened to you. And I do want to hear about that. I have to assume the first couple of weeks or months, if it was anything like it was here, were very scary.
Oh,
What was going through your mind? How
100%.
did you manage that internally, the stress?
Well, I had just had a baby. So my 5-year-old was born January of 2020. I worked from home in January and then I went back to the office in February because as a founder, you don't really get maternity leave. It's just kind of you go back to work pretty soon. So I had just gotten back into the office. We actually had a photo shoot out of the country I had to go to. And this is the middle to end of Feb of that year. On the way back, I left early because even though I'm over creative, I was like, I have a baby at home. I have to get home to. I just wanted to make sure everyone was safe. It was going the right way. I see on the TVs everywhere as I'm traveling through the airport by myself at the end of Feb about this pandemic outbreak. And I'm like,
Mm,
what is really about to happen? Well, fast forward 2
mhm.
weeks later, beginning of March,
Boom.
everything shut down. And luckily, we we were warehousing in Kentucky, so they did not have to shut that down. But we still have an assortment of Easter dresses and event attire that nobody's gonna want if
Yeah.
the world shut down. So it was very stressful, very hard. That first few weeks, I'd had absolutely no idea what to do. We had, projections for revenue that we just threw that out the window. We're like, it's March and everything's shut down. No one's shopping online. But then it changed quickly and people did start shopping online. But that
Yeah.
first few weeks was very stressful.
Where were you out of the country?
We were in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Oh, out of the country. I was in Punta Cana for the photo shoot.
I was in Turks and Caicos the last week of February
Yeah.
with my wife, and
Yeah.
we're sitting there, and she's like, "Hey, you seen what's happening in China? It's kind of grainy videos of like bodies piling up." I was like, "Yeah, it's probably fake news."
Yeah.
No, 2 weeks later, it was
Right.
like everything shut down. It was crazy.
It was absolutely insane. And then still trying to manage running the business, especially a business that does require in-person photo shoot and photography and packaging orders. And how do you keep your employees safe? But then also, how do you still have revenue because you have employees you have
Yeah.
to pay? So it was a lot to navigate.
Well, let's hope we don't have to do that again anytime soon.
Let's hope.
Not until they come out with COVID-20. How do you manage stress? Is there something specific you do? Some people talk meditation, breathing exercise. Is there something that you do as a founder mom, as a working mom, that helps you manage the stress load?
Yeah, I feel like for me, what works the most is ensuring I always get my miles in. I try to do 3 or 4 miles a day, even just walking. I really try to ensure and wellness is still a priority. During the first few years, it was not. I would skip meals. I would sit down all day. I was probably at the smallest weight of my life. I'm like, I am not gonna make it if I don't take care of my body
Mhm.
and my health and
Gotta get that protein
eat
in.
that protein. So yeah, so now I think the biggest thing for my anxiety piece is moving my body, ensuring I'm feeding my body with the right things that aren't just going to make me crash later in the afternoon and getting that protein. Not gonna lie, I take anxiety medication. I
Mm,
have since 2016. I think that's one thing too. There's always a stigma around it, and I'm like, no, I'm a better person because I take
mm.
it. It just helps me not, stress all day long. So, I will say I should limit my caffeine. I don't, but that's one that I know that would help with the stress.
How much caffeine you drink? Like, what? Give me your daily.
4 or 5 cups of coffee a day.
When do you stop?
I do not drink typically after 1 p.m. I do not. I have to sleep too,
Yeah, I
and I
was gonna
like
say.
to be asleep by 9 or
Yeah,
10 every night. So if I go
yeah,
past that, I won't sleep.
yeah. I don't know. I'm 4 or 5, 2 or 3, but like caffeine has a half life of 6 hours. So
Yeah,
like if you stop by noon, one, and
yeah.
you'll still have some, and doctors, but like you'll be fine. What is everybody thinks? I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm going to generalize. Like I feel like a lot of people think being a founder or being, starting is just this amazing experience. And in some facets, it
Yeah,
absolutely is. Nobody twists our own to do it, right?
right.
But share with the audience the biggest misconception about being a founder and being a business owner where you're like, hey, look, if I had to do it again, I'd do it all over again, right? But this was something that I think most people don't realize that might be challenging. The biggest misconception that people from the outside who haven't kind of done what you've done, they may miss about being a business owner.
I think the biggest thing is they see the highlights, they see the accolades, they see all the great stories, but they don't see the behind the scenes, like really hard parts, managing people, um, years that may not be growth years, years that have declines, budget cuts, things like that. Like they're not seeing all the late nights and the hard work that goes into it. So I think that that's too like where I do try to take my community behind the scenes more to show them that it's not always just like the Inc. 5000 awards. It's also these like, okay, we get behind. We're packaging orders till like late and we're going to get this out. So I think that most people out there just share the highlights. And I think that's the biggest misconception. It is not just awards and growth years, it's a lot of balance between the hard and the great. So I also think that a lot of people see the money and they think that's going to change my life. And while it can change your life, it doesn't just create happiness. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned over the years, the last 11 years is like financially going from having so much debt and to barely getting by to now
Mm.
creating this world where I can put my kids into private school and I can pay for things. It didn't make me happier at the end of the day. Money is not going to just create this happiness, but I am happy that I get to do what I love every day. So it's like, yes, that it makes my life easier, but that didn't solve all my problems. I still had to do a lot of internal work, a lot of, things to grow to get to be happy. So I think that that's the one thing too. I see a lot. Oh, if I just start this job or this my own job, I'll have money and I'll be happy. You can be happy without the money.
Give us a story as a founder. I just asked a question like, hey, what's the biggest misconception that people may have? Give us of being a founder or being an owner, but give us a story, like something that's
Okay.
happened to you as a founder owner that like if they didn't hear you tell it, they'd be like, that never happened. Like that's too crazy.
Well, this is very specific to females and moms probably too. Of course, working while you're pregnant and you never know when you're going to go into labor. I'm on set of a photo shoot. Like literally, we have new arrivals we have to shoot. There's a very small team. This is 2016, 2015. I had to go back again in my brain. My water breaks during the photo shoot.
Mm.
And the team there, one is my sister-in-law. She still works for the company to this day. She's our director of brand, but she is like I'm driving you to the hospital. And I'm like, absolutely not. You're staying here and you're finishing this photo shoot. And I want to see the photos tonight. She's like, you're having a baby. I'm like, but we also got a company to run.
You're like, my contractions aren't 5 minutes apart. I still have time.
I have time. And I had no contractions. It was just my water breaking. So I drove myself to the hospital. It was only 2 miles, but she thought I was insane. And we still laugh about this story now, 10 years later. She thought I was insane. She's like, you cannot drive yourself to the hospital. We should just stop this. I said, the work must go on. We have customers that want to see these products and we got to go. So I'm sitting there, once I get to the hospital and I'm messaging her, I'm like, send me photos. She goes, you're insane. Like, you're really crazy. You should be having a baby. So she comes to the hospital a few hours later. I'm like, do I have like the imagery to look through so I can pick my favorites? She's like, this is crazy.
Yeah, you were locked in.
Yeah. But as a founder, like that's just you literally, especially the early years, like you're doing so much and you're in charge of so much that you can't really like you don't want to drop the ball because there are other people waiting on you. You're wearing too many hats.
Everything came out?
Baby came out. She was great. She did. She's my feisty girl.
I was going to say, she swam through a sea of cortisol on her way out.
She did. Yes, she did. And that's probably why she is like a fiery redhead girl, and she will, give it back to you.
She's like that girl from the movie Brave. You ever seen that?
Yeah. I never have to worry about her.
That was a good one. When you started Pink Lily, looking back, if you can, how do you think you would have defined success back then? And then how do you define it today?
I, back then, would define success obviously more based on the revenue and based on the financial aspect of success. The accolades, all of the things. But now, having lived that, I define success by being able to show up and do what I love every single day and not having to go into an office and do a job that I don't love. I actually get to pick out clothing and share it with customers who love to just feel great in what they're wearing and meet these ladies and meet the community and lead the team, who is a lot of females and a lot of moms. I get to work, live, breathe, and do what I love. And I feel like that to me is success. I don't have to do something that I don't love every single day.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you professionally? Worst thing that anyone ever did? And what was the lesson that taught you?
I have had, of course, sharing your life online and sharing your business online is opening up the door for criticism. And I think that the worst thing that happened to me professionally is other female founder moms, calling me out on social media. I think that's the biggest thing that really bothered me, especially during some of those years where like heightened growth of social media platforms, using their platform to talk negatively about me. And I think it was really rough. It was terrible for a few years. And I think it could have been jealousy. It could have been all kinds of things. At the end of the day, I'm a very nice person to anybody I meet, especially founder moms. So I think it's just my success, our success of the company really bothered them to the point where they would go and verbally talk negatively about me.
Do you think that might be more prevalent on the female side than like male founders to male founders?
Absolutely. Yes. I do think that females, if something doesn't work out for them, they want to blame other people. And that's the one thing too, over the years, I've really tried to make sure that if something doesn't work out for me, it's my fault. It's not somebody else's fault. And I think that that's the thing that I know that there's going to be women out there that criticize me. There's going to be women that judge me. And there's going to be videos out there that made against me. And now what they say isn't my problem. So it's really taken a couple years to really step back and say, I can't let this affect me, because it did. It really affected me for several years.
Yeah. Haters.
Absolutely. It was terrible.
And sometimes women can be mean to each other. Yeah.
Women can be very mean to each other. And that's why I do try really hard to just share positivity and to use my platform for the good things in life, because there's just out there.
Yeah. I agree. That's good. You touched on something in almost every episode. This is a big thing for me personally. Agency and victim mentality. You touch on agency is I'm in control of everything. Like people can affect it, but like I'm in control. And victim mentality. I think you said, hey, one of the things other women can do is like blame other people, feel like they're victims. Have you ever found yourself kind of swimming in the water as a victim mindset? And how did you get out of it? How do you keep yourself from feeling like a victim, even in moments where you probably were truly victimized?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are definitely times where I have started getting towards the victim mindset. But I think at the end of the day, I have to know that I'm in control of everything that I do, whether if something happens, say if somebody up and quits or somebody does use their platform to talk bad about me or something, I'm still in control of the way I react and I'm in control of what happens from there.
Mm.
So if I'm left hanging and I have to take on extra work because an employee leaves, that's in my control. If I have to just step back and let somebody talk negatively about me and me just stay quiet because that's what I need to do for my mental health or what I choose to do, that's how it happens. I think that, the way I react is the biggest thing that I've learned over the last few years of what's going to make the biggest difference. And I don't feel like I fall into that victim mentality. I feel like everything that happens to me is either, of course, God or because of my choices. So one of the two. Like it's not somebody else just doing things to me. That if I look at it that way, I'll never really get anywhere in life.
Yeah, sports, you either win or you learn.
Yeah.
I asked you earlier at the beginning of the podcast, hey, tell us about Pink Lily. Tell us the name Pink Lily. Where'd that come from?
Oh, the name. We were sitting there. I remember 4th of July. My son was just a few months old. So the name came before the website and the platforms. We had a Facebook group. It was named something different. It was called Luxury for Less, to really have great items for affordable pricing. But I didn't like that name for like the website. And I was like, what are we going to name this? My husband and I remember it was the 4th of July. My son was a few months old and the fireworks were going off and had just got him to bed. And I was not happy. I was like, I need these fireworks to stop. And he's like, you know what? Let's talk about a name. Let's take your mind off these fireworks. So we're sitting there and we're just talking through names. My mom had breast cancer 2 years prior and finished chemo about a year before my son was born. And my husband and I had done a huge 20-mile walk for breast cancer awareness. And so I knew like pink was always my favorite color, but also I wanted to like use the word pink for her for breast cancer.
Mhm.
And then my grandmother, she was her mom and she loved her flowers, her flower garden. Like very Christian, godly lady, would go to church head to toe decked out, always had her nails done, beautiful lady. But
Glam.
she won an award for her landscaping. Like she was in there in the dirt, in the weeds, putting in her flowers. I respect her because I pay people to do that. Like that's not something I do, but she loved it. And Easter lilies were her favorite. So I was like, you know what? Let's just tie it together. Pink lily. Like, yes, it's a flower, but two of the most inspirational women in my life, like taught me, faith, hard work, but also being put together and, doing it all at the same time. So that's where the name came from. It's really both for those women.
And what year did you found it?
The official launch of the website was January of 2014.
2014.
So we had the Facebook group prior for about 7 or 8 months.
So you're coming up on 12 years now. Go back 12 years. Sitting in the living room with, mid-20s Tori.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell that young lady?
I would tell her that it's going to be a really hard, stressful entrepreneurial experience, but to make sure to enjoy all the little moments because it goes by so fast and things change so quickly that like you should really just cherish and have fun while doing it. Everybody expects, okay, once I hit this milestone, I'll be happier. Once I hit this, or once we get to this level, you should also cherish the everyday life, find joy in the journey of building that career.
It's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
I agree with you there. What legacy do you hope to leave as a leader, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a founder? Like what do you hope people say about you when you hang up your cleats one day?
I hope that they say that she really did overcome a lot of things that were thrown her way throughout the years, coming from lower middle class and, the things that were told along the years, having a lot of male bosses and just like overcoming those barriers, the creating this life from absolutely nothing, having more debt than I could even account for, back in the day to building this beautiful life because of hard work and determination and having the faith to just go for it. I want people to know that, not the crazy chaos, all the things that go into it, but more about like just the grit and determination and doing it all, not perfectly, but just doing it all to raise a family, to have a business, to try to live the best, happiest life I can, but also making an impact.
a lot of your bosses kind of leading up to founding male, ever moments where you felt you were treated differently because you're a female?
Absolutely. So my first job, I worked at a Italian restaurant, fast casual restaurant. I was the breadstick girl, and I was like, "Can I learn how to do the cash register?" All of the guys, it was all guys doing the cash register in the drive-through window, and all the girls who were hired had to just go hand out breadsticks. Like, this is really not right. I want to do more than this. And they're like, well, I think one day you can get there. I quit because I was like, whatever. This is, I hate to say that I quit a job, but I was like, I'm leaving. So then I went to another job, another restaurant, and worked there for 5 years. And I worked my way up, and I really wanted to be the bartender. So crazy. Like, I was like, okay, I'm a great server. Be the bartender. All the bartenders were males. My
Mm.
boss was a male, and I kept going to him. I was like, let me train, let me do it. And he was like, no. He's like, maybe one day. So, like today, I love to make fun cocktails because I'm like, I never got to be the bartender. My husband actually was the bartender. I met him through that job. But, and
Wait,
then
hold on. So is he one of the guys like, you can't be a bartender?
Yes. No, he didn't say that.
I was about to say, like,
no.
guy's a
He didn't say-
gangster.
He was actually for it. He was teaching me how to make
I
the
bet
cocktails.
he was for it.
you
Yeah, he's
know?
like, hey, get that.
Yeah, get her
lady.
over here.
Yeah.
No, and then in my regular career after college, it was selling insurance, and it was primarily men, and I was determined to be the top producer, and I was almost every single month, and I wanted to beat them. I wanted to
Good.
be the girl that brought in the most, sales. My boss was great, but it was still it's a very male dominant environment. So I feel
Mm.
like over the years that's all I had experience with. And I did feel like I was limited to the growth opportunities because I was
Now at Pink Lily, the men have to do the breadsticks. Is that how it
That's
works?
true. Yes.
Like
yeah,
metaphorically?
they have to. Yeah.
They got to do all the crappy jobs?
Yeah, they do all the crappy jobs. No, just kidding. We do have some leaders who are men. But I'm excited because most of the marketing and merchandising and
Mm.
creative teams are primarily women. And I love that. And a lot of them are moms. And I think that's one thing with the culture. I've made sure that they have Halloween parties they want to go to for their kids or Christmas parties. Like I 100% encourage that. I'm not going to schedule a meeting at 4 p.m. on a Friday of Halloween. Like, no, go. You're a mom too. Like, I want to have a culture that has that balance. And I think it was really important for me because I didn't have that a lot in any other of my previous jobs.
Last question for you. 3 like actionable takeaways for the audience in terms of founding a company.
I would say actionable takeaways. One would be to understand going into it that you're going to care more than anybody else will ever care about your business. So at the end of the day, while you can still have high expectations, you have to understand and be realistic around what your employees are going to produce and what they're going to do because you're going to be the one that cares the most. I think the second one is to always have candor and to always be transparent with employees. You don't have to be their best friend. You don't have to go hang out with them after work hours, but you do have to respect and be a person that, shows compassion to your employees. I think that's going to go way further in this life and your career than just, being this mean boss.
Mhm.
Third, I would say find a way while it may be hard to ensure to take care of your health, your wellness, your mental health, have some sort of balance. Otherwise you won't make it. If you starve yourself or if you're running on empty every single day, you
Mm.
will hit burnout. So make sure to avoid burnout, take care of yourself.
That's great. This has been awesome, Tori. Huge fan. I know my family's customer, huge fan. For everyone listening, be sure to follow Tori Gerbig on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and at Tori Gerbig. And check out Pink Lily at pinklily.com. That's an easy one. On Instagram at Pink Lily and TikTok at Shoppin'.
At Shop the Pink Lily. Somebody had taken Pink Lily on TikTok before we got it.
Have you offered to buy it?
I think it was actually me and I forgot the password and then we just changed it. I think I own it in another life, but that's
That's
happened
funny.
a lot too.
That's funny. And so if you found value in this episode, don't forget to follow me on X, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Just search Kyle Matthews CEO. Catch more inspiring conversations on Matthews Mentality Podcast, wherever you listen. Tori, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I think you got a meeting to run to, so I'm going to let you go. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.